We're in a room that's dedicated to Sidney Nolan's famous Ned Kelly series. It's a very important series, both in the National Gallery's collection, but also in the history of Australian art. Part of the reason for the importance of this series is the fact that Nolan drew on the incredible saga of Ned Kelly, and also the way that he brought a totally fresh response to the Australian landscape and to the idea of a national identity. We need to remember that this series was painted at Heidi, the home of John and Sunday Reid, between 1946 and 1947. Part of Nolan's genius with this series was to pick on the idea of a legend based in history. He was interested in Australia's national identity at a time when the war had raised a whole lot of questions. One of the iconic images in this series is simply called Ned Kelly, and we can see here why the series became so significant. In a sense, in this painting, Nolan encapsulates the image of Ned Kelly in the way that he conceived it. We need to remember that this was a totally fresh vision of the way of seeing Ned Kelly. So what has he done? He placed Ned Kelly on his horse very centrally in the composition, and the extraordinary thing about it is he places him in this suit of armour with the box on his head. Basically it's just a black square, and in the middle is this visor which actually stands in for the head. And we see the clouds in the sky and very much that sense of Ned Kelly integrated in the Australian landscape. It's very bold and poetic. It's informed by European modernism, as the whole series is, and we really get a sense of Nolan trying to nail this idea of what constitutes the Australian landscape. And here he's showing us a landscape that actually wasn't so much about Kelly country, but the landscape around the Wimmera that he saw when he was in the army. It's a flat, bleached yellow landscape with little trees dotting the horizon line, and the spaciousness works beautifully against this iconic, compact image of Ned Kelly with his rifle on his horse. It's an image that was shown at the Sydney Olympics in 2000 to symbolise Australia, perhaps to give a sense of ourselves as something anti-authoritarian with a sense of wit, and certainly the image has a sense of drama. Sidney Nolan brought an extraordinary vision to the story of Ned Kelly. It's now become so well recognised in Australian art that the image of Ned Kelly is very much synonymous with Sidney Nolan. It was a very important series in his own artistic life, and certainly in the history of Australian art, it has assumed great significance. By placing these works in an oval room as they are, we really get a sense of the unfolding nature of the story in an almost filmic way. We are able to trace that view of Ned Kelly in his armour in a whole lot of different versions in the way that Nolan has painted him. I think the poetry, the humour, the pathos, a lot of that sense of the struggle that went on in the saga is brought through in the way that Nolan painted the series, but he's obviously done it in a very poetic way. He's thought about how we see the landscape, and these works stand just as well in the history of Australian landscape painting as they do in terms of history painting. Sunday Reid gifted the series, hanging in this room, to the National Gallery in 1977, and we remain very grateful to her for this extraordinary gift.